FM.
Hi.
KTSY. I don't know why I'm singing. I'm not the one who is late. No, wait. I am the one who is late. You should be singing. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Sam. This is Daniel. Hello, everyone. In case you needed to remember the sound of my voice versus the sound of Sam's voice.
Yeah. You know, maybe I should subtly... No, we don't have similar voices at all. I was going to say maybe I should subtly pan like left, right in headphones where our voices are. So there's further differentiation.
That sounds like work.
Yeah. It's not that much work. I'm also testing right now to the masses. I guess this feature has been out for a while, but Instagram has finally allowed custom live stream software to integrate with Instagram. So you can just pop in. They give you it's called an RTMPS like streaming URL, and you can just pop it into Riverside, and we could, in theory, go live with these when. And then release them on our regular schedule, but just like every time we record,
that
we
sounds
just broadcast.
Super dangerous, and I can't wait to try it out.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know how to say, okay, go live now on our recording platform, Riverside FM. I entered all the data, the keys and such, but there's no giant. I would think there would be a go live button, but maybe because I'm already recording, it just doesn't allow it. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think this is something we're going to solve and or decide to use today, but I am excited for our future usage. Today is Monday, which is the day before we release. We usually record the weekend before, and I screwed up.
Let's try extra hard today to not have too many ums and ahs and awkward gaps, so I can edit this thing real quick and get it turned around.
Yes, I shan't be umming today. I shall be speaking clearly and enunciating with no problems.
We finally had a lovely meal out and painted the town red was the phrase.
That is a phrase that used to exist. We can bring it back. And I was a little too hungover to record at our normal time, and that's on me. I should not have gotten the extra wine pairing that I did, but I did, and here we are.
Up on you. Yeah.
And then Sam had a minor run-in with some lasagna, so we were not able to record this weekend. And
do not recommend the wedding vendor lasagna. Yes, it's it sucked. I ate like a nice healthy portion of this lasagna, and then they were like, "Oh, we have extra plates from the guests. Would you like this filet mignon?" Damn it. So not only did I miss out on having the filet, but also, got some lovely, I think they had some fake meat in there. I don't know if it was like Beyond or whatever, but I don't know. Anytime there's vegan style, like substitute-y type food, I always get like sick and nauseous. I don't know what it is.
Protein.
It's like my body rejects healthiness.
Yeah, you can't handle it. You should have stuck around for the fillet. So we have,
just saying. All right.
because we are on a tight schedule, and because we're pretty tired and a lot's going on, we took the easy route this week. And this week we are doing a Q&A episode. I got a lot of questions. Did you get a lot of questions?
I got a good number. I was late posting it. I didn't do it till like last night, but I got at least 10 to go through. I don't know if they're all good. I haven't read them all, but there were some interesting questions. So we can start with yours if you'd like. That's fine.
I mean, we can alternate. We can go back and forth.
Not doing so well on this thing. All right, let me pull mine up.
I was reading. I was trying to read. I was pulling up an information. All right, here's a simple one for you, Sam. We are rolling in hot with an easy breezy Sam heard only question. Kyle would like to know, Sam, how many photos do you deliver for a wedding?
Yeah, it's a scary accurate average. It's almost to the number 100 images per hour that I shoot. And then that also translates to sessions, like engagement sessions. It's typically about 150 images, and the session is about an hour and a half long. So that is it. I've oscillated between like the core number of images I start with, like the number of photos I take that aren't necessarily delivered. I've oscillated between up to 8,000, so like 1,000 per hour average. More recently, back down to like 4,000. I've forced myself to rein in the full
Spray and
frames per
pray.
second. Yes,
The hold
frame rate.
down button. That's for sports.
You know, I
You're not
love it
shooting a
once I
sport.
get in going. Yeah, it is for sports. You're right, but I just like having the fluid responsiveness of just. But here's the thing, I really really was impressed with the Nikon Z9, which is their kind of flagship mirrorless camera, and it only shoots in silent mode with, and then you can have like a fake sound effect. So I've been trying to see if I can get, because my camera also does just pure silent shooting, but the only indication of a photo being made is a white square around the edge. So when I've tried that pure silent shooting with the high frames per second, it's like way too many images. I have no sense of stuff, so I switched it to doing single shot, so it's only taking photos every time I hit the shutter, and that allows me a lot more control over exactly when the moment is happening, since I get no audio feedback. And the average frames now is closer to about 4,000, which is what I took back in my DSLR days. But yeah, from that, no matter if I'm starting from 4,000 or 8,000, the delivery is almost always the same, about 100 per, about 800 in a full wedding gallery. Yeah.
So you shoot for a full 8 hours per wedding, give or take. Like that's your average package. It's like, hey, show up.
Yeah. I do a lot of South Asian weddings. Those typically are more like 12 to 15 hours. But yeah.
Hell yeah. That's one down. Here's one. Oh God.
Are these all
This
for me?
will be. I'm going to answer this question for myself first, and then Sam can answer this. Amanda would like to know, how do you do photo storage?
Oh, God.
So my answer is poorly. I have had a Western Digital or SanDisk something or other attached to my computer since the edge of time, and it has never failed me until it has. And then, oopsie daisy, there went a couple of years worth of images because I'm not a professional
These
shooter.
were spinning drives, like old school?
Yeah, old school spinners. Yeah, I lost like 2009 to 2012. And then I accidentally deleted a 2000, like the last month of 2014 once somewhere. I can't find it anywhere. So I've consolidated down to a couple of SSDs, solid state drives, baby. And
Never had one of those fail.
I need to, I specifically very much need to do better now because I care a lot more about my photography. I'm making a lot more intentional images and a lot better work. And while I'm continuing to borrow Sam's 102 megapixel GFX 100S by Fujifilm, I run out of space already. And I'm like,
that's the trade-off with SSD. They're more expensive, and so people don't have as large of ones. Okay, so that's it. You just have a couple of SSDs floating around.
It's poorly done. I need to consolidate, and then I need to get a off-site like Backblaze.
Friend of the show and future sponsor.
Friend of the show. Hey, Backblaze.
Sponsorships.
We love you. Give us free storage in exchange for an interview. We would like to keep our quid pro quos. That's a hard word to say.
Quo?
It's not. I mean, it's not our language anymore. That's Latin. I speak English, not Latin. I don't even speak English that well.
In high school, I never took any language other than Latin.
But I would like to be very upfront. If we ever have someone on from Backblaze, it'll be because they gave us $14 a month worth of free storage. Anyway, so that's how I do it. Poorly, badly. Do not be like me. But also maybe don't be like Sam, because I've seen Sam's storage situation. It might be. I would describe it as extreme. Sam, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I was gonna say this is not a bad thing. It's good to be extreme. I often try and put myself in the mindset of how much money would I be willing to pay if I lost someone's entire wedding set of wedding photos. Like, how much money would I be willing to pay to recover those images? And the answer is quite a lot. I mean, I don't even know. A lot of money, way more than they paid to hire me to shoot it. So yeah, I do essentially. Well, one of the okay, let's start with the organization side, because that's where a lot of people mess up. One of my favorite features about Lightroom Classic, especially compared to the new Lightroom, like their cloud whatever app, is the file management. Like, being that you get your entire hierarchy, and I'm just cleaning my lenses up here, by the way, as I talk about all this. Being that you get the entire like hierarchy of your folders that you've imported into Lightroom, that essentially just act as pointers to where they actually exist on your computer, like in Finder. That makes it actually, I think, really easy, as long as you understand how that relationship works between what Lightroom is looking at and where they exist on your computer. That makes it very easy to manage and keep track of all your folders. So rule number one for me is keep everything in dated folders. So everything gets imported into a 2023 folder, and then within that it's April 24th, 2023, April 25th, 2000, and I generally only shoot one event per day, so that makes it pretty straightforward. But even if you did happen to shoot more than one event in a day, just use the same structure of dated folders and add like a -2 to the second event, or a -3, like that keeps it easy. Now, to find stuff aside from the date, like if you wanted to use client names or something like that, I import with keywords in the metadata. So I type in the client's name and information and any like venue details and stuff like that in the keyword thing. So I can just do a global search in my Lightroom catalog for their name or for the venue name or something like that, and find it very easily. And that's only if I don't remember the actual date, which is usually pretty easy to find on my Google Calendar. Okay, so that's like rule number one, is just being really familiar with where your folders are and really, really consistent with how they're organized. The other big rule, and Lightroom makes this very easy, is to rename all of my file names with basically the timestamp of when the image was made. So every file name gets rewritten to the year, month, day, hour, minute, second that it was photographed. The reason that's really, really helpful, I don't know if this is still the case, but it certainly was back when I shot Nikon DSLRs. If you have, like, say, one Lightroom catalog per year, or even a bunch of Lightroom catalogs and just folders of raw files, the Nikon cameras, and I'm pretty sure all cameras actually, they like roll back to the start. So like the naming scheme might be DSC0001, but once it gets to 9,999, it rolls back to 0001 again. And now you are importing, it might be in a different folder, but somewhere on your computer exists the exact same file names. That's a recipe for disaster, absolute disaster. And then if you shoot, really high volume stuff like weddings, you're talking about maybe a dozen across just 1 year of the exact same file names. Even if they're in different folders, that's just a bad recipe. So I import with the timestamp, and that's also really nice because any other services you might send stuff to, or if clients download the batch zip, it's really easy for them to sort in the correct chronological order always, without anything really needing to be changed from them. So that's also extremely important.
That's a winner. Step 2 is a winner tip. Love that. On to step 3.
And you can create a template for, I know you're like, we got to.
Well, like, we haven't even gotten to the part where you're storing the photos.
Okay, but this is why it's like, just putting it on a drive is not going to help you if you can't find or know where and how to like move crap. Okay, but just to, all right, moving on. So I manage one of my best purchases ever. People don't know what I mean until they do it themselves, and it's very expensive. So I might be the only person that has the 8 terabyte internal SSD on my MacBook Pro. I import everything directly to my internal laptop drive now. It's an 8 terabyte SSD, so I'm never going to run out of space within a year of shooting. And I also, at the same time, import to a second external RAID array. So Lightroom lets you make a second copy right in the import dialog window, and that's where that duplication takes place for me. So I import one set to a data folder locally, exact same time that that's being imported, another set is being copied over to my external RAID array, which is a RAID 5, which is a huge, many terabytes. But RAID is essentially one enclosure, shows up as one drive on your computer desktop, but it actually has 8 hard drives in the enclosure. And just using software, it's a software RAID. They also make hardware RAIDs. I recommend software. It like distributes the data in little slices across all of these drives. So if any one drive in that enclosure fails, nothing is lost. All you have to do is pop that drive out, pop in a new one, and you're good to go. If 2 drives fail, you're screwed, just like normal. There are ways to set up RAIDs in a really fancy way to where you can lose more than just one drive if you're really paranoid, but that's it. I also render smart previews. So that's a really easy way if you can't afford a really expensive drive or something like that. Smart previews are low resolution RAW files, but they're still 2,500 pixels wide. So if you can render smart previews, if you had lost all of your RAW files, you can still export from a smart preview, and that's a very printable file. And you could upres that using all the various AI, like there's a let'senhance.io is a great website to upsize files. Lightroom also has it built in. I think it's called Smart Enhance, where they can like quadruple the resolution size for huge prints. That's worst case scenario. But you can back up your smart previews to the cloud because an entire wedding of thousands of photos will be about, 800 megabytes. So yeah, there's a lot more we can talk about, but I'll leave it there. You should be rendering smart previews also because you get a huge performance boost when you're actually editing in Lightroom because they're...
Is that why the GFX files are wrecking my Lightroom? Because I'm not using smart preview, so I'm just
100%.
editing a 12,000 pixel
So
photo.
that's a great example when like it's maybe easier to realize when you have such an extreme difference. It will it'll take a minute. It'll take a while to render the smart preview files, but once it's done, it's done. You don't have to worry about it. And yeah, Lightroom smartly will point to the lower resolution smart preview render while you're editing. But if you export, and as long as you have your RAW files connected, it will automatically pull from the full res RAW file. So you don't have to do anything fancy with like telling it, as long as your RAW files are connected. If they're not connected, it'll still let you export, and it doesn't even give you a warning. And I've accidentally delivered a few client galleries before realizing, oh crap, I exported from the smart previews because I didn't have my RAW files connected. But again, those will only be 2,500 pixels. So yeah, good in a worst case scenario, way better than a JPEG. So okay.
Way better than a JPEG. Everything's better than a JPEG. If there's one thing you can take away from Sam and I's combined industry knowledge, anything is better than a JPEG.
So you have a JPEG. And
JPEG. I got a couple of quick glass ones that I'm gonna just hit that are glass specific. How can I get the first year of glass for $19.99? Well, thank you for asking that, Rob. I would love to give it to you right now. Go to glass.photo/offer/Sam. That's there you go.
Oh, okay. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, glass.photo/offer/Sam.
Get my
SAM
URL.
Sam.
That's great.
Yeah, I gave that to Sam like a year and a half ago when I was trying to become friends with Sam so I could use, get him to share glass and stuff. And then instead of that working, we just became real life friends. And now we're just here talking to you on the internet. And I'm like, I don't care about your discount code, Sam. This is
I don't either. I'm so bad about those links. Oh my God.
All right. That's fine.
Next glass question.
Is it too far-fetched to ask for multiple pics in a post? It is too far-fetched to ask for that.
Oh.
It's not.
Yeah.
We will support that at some point. It's a very complex engineering problem. Instagram did a mediocre job of it when they implemented it forever ago, and we are trying to avoid some of their mistakes.
They're referring to like a carousel post, right?
Yeah. So like multiple images per a single post is the ask, and it's a thing we're going to support. It's going to be called Series. That's my little secret. My little sprinkle in little secrets. It's going to be called Series.
It's good.
We're time Tom has this really fun idea that attaches multiple photos per post to other photos. Maybe, I don't know. It's complex.
Multiple photos. I see.
We got some fun ideas here. We'll see how they play out. But because of those fun ideas, and because there were only 3 people, it takes time for these fun ideas to come to life.
Oh, good.
You guys seem to have
my fun idea with the photo challenge, an entire second side of the app that could be its own app in Glass.
I want that to exist. Challenges are going to exist at some point. Like, we're going to give you achievements for existing. I call it Glass single player mode, where you're just where you're.
I can see why you work in marketing.
Yeah, that's the, if you're joining the photo community, but you don't actually want to join the community, you just want to have an app tell you did a good job. I'm going to do that for you next year. That part's not coming until next year. All right. And then final Glass one. You guys seem to have features planned for a year plus, but keep quiet. Wouldn't a rough timeline potentially attract more members, or consider letting us current members know? That exists. Feedback.glass.photo, and you will see a lot of our planned roadmap, current things. I updated it today because today we released a new feature set for customizing your profile. You can now pin photos to your profile, and you can hide photos from your profile. Got a weird photo that you're like, man, I don't know if this works. Post it to Glass anyway, and then hide it from your public profile. That way, when you're showing off your profile to your mom or a potential client, I show it off to my mom. If I'm being honest, my mom literally will pull up in my Glass profile and be like, "Damn, look at Daniel go," which is adorable.
Wait, does she comment and interact with stuff?
No, she doesn't have an account. My dad has an account, but he doesn't use it. Papa AG, I know you're not listening because you don't listen to podcasts and you respect boundaries or whatever. But if you are, post to Glass. You're a pretty good photographer. You could be better. You know who could make you better? The Glass community. So you can hide photos or you can pin photos. A common thing that happens when someone joins Glass is they post their favorite photos. And then they keep posting photos, and suddenly their favorite photos are at the bottom of their profile. So now, problem solved. Just pin it to the top.
Can you pin more than one thing?
You can pin as many things as you want. It effectively creates 2 profiles in your profile. It is via chronological. So if you pin something from 8 months ago and 2 months ago, the 2 month ago photo will show up above the 8 month. Organizing those, incredibly hard. Telling them to take anything that's just pinned and push it to the top, easy breezy. So more profile curation is coming in the future. When will that future be? I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I can't tell the future. That was our handful of Glass specific questions. I'm assuming you didn't get any Glass specific questions in your
I did not.
Q&A.
Let me sprinkle in some of mine.
Hit me.
Do.
Make sure to pick one that I can answer intelligently. That would be great for me.
Okay.
I know the majority of these questions are like specific to you.
Well, or weddings. So best new wedding day hack to reduce hassle even more. I have a great answer for this.
Coffee. Coffee's my answer.
That's nice. There's an app called AnyText. There's an app called AnyText. Okay, this is wonderful. I'm gonna show you something right now. So because of the new iPhone home screen, where you can have widgets on your home screen, there's an app called AnyText that lets you create, I think, up to like 9 different widgets that literally you can just put any text in there. So widget 2, which I've added to my home screen, before any wedding day now, just add the client's names. So Maggie and Aaron, that was the last wedding I photographed. There's now a widget I've added from AnyText to my home screen, and the text of their names is right there on my home screen.
Oh, that is actually really great.
Yep. And then here's another widget with another series of texts for like easy reminders. And what's cool, you just like tap into it, boop, and then any extra text that I've
will show up.
so beautifully added. I don't even have to hit save or anything. I just get to like stop and scroll back, and boom, there it is. So AnyText is a wonderful widget if you're bad at names like I am. And I just now thought I should see if they might have a complication, which is what they call them.
So you can have them on your watch.
Yeah.
I love that. What other fun ways to reduce hassle are there besides coffee and AnyText?
Having a questionnaire filled out is a big deal. I've shared my questionnaire many times because it's evolved over the years on my Patreon, but I make sure and send that about 6 weeks out to the clients. I stress that I don't want this to feel like homework. So if a question, and I send the same thing to every wedding, question does not apply to you. What is going on with my hair? It's crazy. If the question does not apply to you, just completely skip it. Don't work too hard. Give me like the core answers. The reason it's so nice to have basically a form filled out instead of just like sending an email with a whole list of questions is things get lost in email. Things get buried in email. It's really hard to find. It can be hard to find. This questionnaire you can just dump as a PDF. And so having that on my phone on the day, like quick access, is also very nice. So that reduces so much stress because it's got the final start time for me to arrive, the end time when I can leave, any surprises, the starting address locations, which is really key, planner information if they have one, and the family photo groupings. So if they have a really special set of family that they want outside of the obvious, more immediate family stuff, they've already listed those there for me. And yeah, the only time I get a little bit more stressed is because it's more work for me to have to ask questions and guess things on the day if clients forget or don't fill that questionnaire out, which does happen sometimes. But
when I was shooting professionally, we used a questionnaire that had that same section on it of like family photo section, who needs to be in the photos and what. And the last wedding I shot was for a friend. It was like a year or two ago. I just shot a friend's wedding because they asked me to. And I did not send them a questionnaire because it was kind of last minute. Like they were like, hey, we're getting married in like 6 days. Can you come through? And I was like, yeah, no problem.
nice.
And I deeply regretted not making them fill out a questionnaire with 5 days notice and making it homework. Questionnaires, game changer. You deserve it.
Yeah. It's tough to just like make one out of thin air though. That's for sure. So
which is why you should go to patreon.com/SamHeardPhotography to like and subscribe to see Sam's questionnaire.
No, it might even be a free post. I have a lot of free posts sprinkled throughout that thing. So
How many of those could I potentially steal and republish on Glass? Here's Sam's guide to wedding questionnaires.
I'm really not sure. I think you could sort by free and see, and yeah, any of those are potential candidates. Especially older posts, I'm totally fine having stuff be out there for free. After a while, everybody who is an active patron has probably gotten way more than enough value out of being there over time. So yeah, we'll figure that out.
What an exciting time.
Okay.
Well,
so that's
new guide coming to Glass.photo from Sam. Getting people running the content calendar for Glass is like easily the worst part of my job, because people get really excited about writing a thing for us, but then it like falls through the cracks on their life or my side, right? So like I'll need to edit something or they'll need something, and then it's just a mess. Managing people for words is always a mess.
I went through a period of hiring people to, I paid them $1,000. I was like, hey, can you just write an interesting article, deconstructing a photo, talking about anything, but it has to be of some substance and depth.
I can. I have some furniture I need to buy for this house, so I'm available whenever you need.
This was years ago. Now it doesn't really work in my business model as well as it used to. But the problem was, I would get people who were just writing crap or nothing of interest or not at all. I'm like, geez, this is tough. I mean, F-Stoppers is paying people like $50 for an article. What's going on here? Anyway, it's fine.
DP Review is paying no one for articles. R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Don't sell to Amazon, kids. That's the lesson.
What's the most expensive mistake you've ever made?
I have passive and active. Most expensive passive mistake I ever made: left a camera bag in a car. Car got broken into, and there went $21,000 worth of camera gear. It was luckily kind of insured, so I only had to cover like 5 or 6 grand. But I was on like a payment plan because it was not, and this is the worst part, my camera. It was a friend's camera gear bag that he lent me for a shoot. And so I was on a payment plan where I just sent him $50 a month forever.
You're like, I'm still paying.
Well,
Dang.
I was like 22 at the time, and he was, a professional, 30, 35. I'd met him at a workshop, and he was just like doing me a solid. And then, so his cost for replacing it via his studio was like minimal. He had insurance, whatever, but then there was still that gap, and I felt bad. And he was like, you don't have to worry about it, man. It, like, shit happens. And I was like, oh, I'm an adult, and I promised, and I care. So I sent him $50 a month for like 3 years. Great. And then I got, like randomly had enough money one day when I went to send him $50 and was like, and just wiped it all out.
Is theft like that really a mistake? It's not even your fault, really. I mean, yeah, if it was completely visible in a car, you're asking for it. But when something like that, so I was thinking back to in the trunk. So that's not a mistake. Like, I'm sorry, but I hate when people say, like, oh, well, it's your fault. You shouldn't have left it in the trunk. It's like, no, somebody shouldn't have fucking broken into my goddamn trunk and stolen all my shit. It's their fault, not mine.
That's true. Actually, yeah. I take it back. Scott, you were wrong for making me pay that back no. He tried to not make it. I made me pay that. Younger Daniel, you were wrong. Most expensive active mistake. Accidentally drop kicked a accidentally drop kicked a 85 1.2 Canon off a cliff. So I played soccer as a youth, and so like I have great foot dexterity. So I was changing. I was on a shoot, and I was changing the lens, and I dropped it. And whenever I drop things, I try to break the fall with my foot, and so I successfully did that, and then it bounced off of my foot to not break and shatter, which is great, but it unfortunately then just rolled off the edge of the cliff into a creek that was like 50, 60 feet down, and that was the end of that.
Did you even make an effort to retrieve it, or was it just
no? I saw it was not an embankment. That it was in Idaho along a.
Stop it.
It was in Idaho along a very, rapid river. It was like the Salmon River. It's known for its whitewater rafting.
Okay, and, known for being excellent at destroying all lenses.
And like, that glass is big, right? Like the 85 1.2, to get it to 1.2, the lens itself is like a 87 or 88 or something. Like it's a big millimeter boy, and I definitely saw pieces just. Like glass shards and things flying off of it as it tumbled. And so
well, that's exciting. That is your fault.
that was 100% my fault. If I just let it drop, it would have just like hit the ground and maybe broke, but I could have repaired it for less than replacing it. But no, I kicked it. I gently kicked it off a ledge.
Okay. I too had things stolen mid-wedding, actually during family photos. Someone walked off with my rolling bag of like backup camera gear that I just kind of keep near me.
Like from the wedding? Like a wedding?
No, we were out in a semi-public area, and I even had the bag kind of close to me. But at some point, someone just walked by, I guess, and took it. I don't know what happened, but I
would actually like to believe that a groomsman stole it. Like,
yeah,
he saw his moment.
I think it was someone in the public. I mean, how could you do that because the groomsmen and all them, they were in the photos. Yeah, but it was mid-family photos, and I realized it. Was very grateful. I had everything I needed on my sling bag on me, including a flash, which I usually don't even touch at all until much later in the evening. So I was able to shoot the whole day. I didn't even tell the couple. told them nothing about it. They found out through someone else later, and they sent me an email after a couple weeks saying, thank you so much for not telling us, because it would have ruined their day. And I was like, yeah, of course. No, that would have been awful. I'm just so grateful I wasn't screwed and like had to stop shooting or something, because then...
Did you investigate the photos like a forensic scientist is to see if you accidentally caught someone in the background or anything?
I did. I looked like crazy through... Yes, exactly. But no, I didn't have anybody in the background. I was framing things up nicely for the family photos to not have people in the background. And the laptop that was in that bag as well showed up on... like Apple Find Me at some point, and I locked the computer and sent a message with the phone number like, hey, this is mine, and it was in California somehow. And they said, so sorry, we just bought this MacBook Air from someone on Craigslist. It was $800. Here's the listing. We can send you the computer if you want. This was like 3 years later. I was like, I don't care. No. But yeah, it was... I was impressed that actually showed up.
They, when we were leaving the Netherlands, a young boy showed up with 1,000 euros cash to buy the MacBook Pro that I was selling, and it was all counterfeit, 1,000 euros. I didn't know that was a thing. And I don't know why I didn't think that was a thing, but like it was not a thing. I had to give it to a Dutch friend to deposit it, so they could then send it to me, because the bank I was using didn't have. It was an internet bank, Bunk Bank. Anyone looking for a recommendation for a bank? It's not Bunk. Bunk sucks. Never use Bunk for anything. I'm putting this in the show notes. The show notes are going to say, do not use Bunk Bank for anything. They're not good. That shout out to Tom, who I accidentally recommended Bunk Bank to.
Oh no.
That was my mistake. Anyway,
language.
BUNQ. Do not use BUNQ Bunk Bank. But yeah, so my friend took it to their real bank and deposited it, and I gave him like 2,000 or 3,000 euros because we had sold a bunch of stuff. And he was like, yeah, I only have 2/3 of it because 1,000 of it was counterfeit. And I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who. And that was that.
Wow. I always wonder if I've ever had counterfeit money somehow. Just didn't realize. It just seems like it would be so impossible to even bother with pulling off these days. But I guess if you're doing a cash transaction via Craigslist or something, it's still...
Or Market Plots.
Market Plots.
Market Plots. PLAAT. Dutch is not a real language. I love you, Stefan, but all languages are made up, so I guess that's also fair. Anyway, onward.
Hey, Sam, do you tell your couples about your Insta 360 behind-the-scenes footage and what you're using it for? So I occasionally strap a camera to my sling bag and hit record just to have footage in case I make any type of interesting photo I want to deconstruct or just share on social media, and the answer is no. I do not mention it to them. Occasionally I would when I used to have a GoPro sitting on top of my camera, because it's a lot more obvious then, like this giant thing. But especially since I've been doing this for a couple years now, I assume most couples understand and know that I could maybe use a video for deconstruction, but it's such a low profile thing because it's literally strapped in line on my already black sling bag. I think the vast majority of people don't even notice. So that's nice. And also, I'm never going to post footage or anything that's like embarrassing to them. I would use the same amount of judgment as I would any photo I was sharing from their wedding. And so that's it. In fact, that footage has proven so useful. I often get wedding clients. It's more aimed at being a photographer to photographer piece of content. It's useful little deconstructions and whatever. But oftentimes wedding clients bring it up during the meeting, before they decide to book me, that they've seen those and they really like having the wider context and information about what I'm doing and what the actual environment looked like. It really enlightens them and proves my value as to what I bring to the table versus maybe somebody less expensive or a friend who's offering to shoot their wedding. They just...
Oh, wow. I think you really threw me under the bus there. As a friend that offers to shoot weddings.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think there's a lot of useful information in there, right? Like it's really good context because most people don't know what shooting, like having their wedding shot is. Most people, this is their first wedding, and even if it's not like you're going through, even if this is your second or third or fourth or fifth marriage, right? Like that's still only 5 photo shoots. That's not that many. You don't really know what's going on. And so giving, that little bit of context and information is great. Also, I would never tell anyone, very specifically a bride or a groom, anything that they didn't absolutely need to know. They don't want any information from you other than where to stand. And so being like, oh, I've got a camera here and we're recording stuff. It's going to be on my Instagram. Like they do not care about your Instagram in that moment. There's definitely a ask forgiveness, not permission sort of thing. If someone has a problem with it in the future, it would be way easier to just take it down and apologize than bring it up day of. Okay, I've got one more glass one that's a good one to hit. And then I have a handful of fun camera stuff, so I can carry us home through the rest of our time unless you have any other good ones.
Let's roll through these. Power through. Let me just check.
Okay.
I think we're good.
All right. Is glass? How far along are we doing for glass being financially stable for the founding team? Great question. We are further along than we thought we would be, while also still not being where we want to be. So the part of the problem with this is that we're all very good at our jobs. And so, like a common marker for profitability is if you quit your job, right? Like if I stopped doing marketing and community for glass, could someone with my experience who is rehired to take my position be paid what we are paying me? No. Right, like which means we are not at real profitability, because profitability is like paying the team based on their experience. But we are getting paid, and we are, growing, and we're all headed in the right direction. Independent businesses have a trajectory on the internet of around 3 to 4 years before you find real product market fit, and you have been in market long enough that people don't think you're going away, and the bell curve of people who are willing to use a platform or a service greatly increases right now. So like right now we are in the glass is almost 2 years old in market. So we've been working on it for almost 4 years, but we are a couple of months away from being 2 years in market, which means we probably have another 2 years to go before we're like making what we would be making if we went and worked at Facebook or Pinterest or whatever.
I was gonna say, it feels like it's been around longer than that, but I guess like the image in my head is like, back all the way to when it was formed. But it's, you're still very, very young. 2 years is nothing. Crazy.
Yeah, August, the second week of August is when we launched. And so we are, this August will be 2 years. And so when we look at how much we've launched over the last 16 months and how well things have gone, we're thrilled with our current positioning. When we are exhausted and tired and, we've been dealing with a problem and someone has emailed us and offered us, a couple $1 million of investment or whatever, and we're exhausted, I'm not gonna lie, that money looks good on those days. But like in general, most days we're very happy. We're very thrilled with our position, and it's just a grind, and we know that, and we're signing up for that. Like we signed up for that grind, so we're still going. We think that this year, specifically the second half of this year, will be a big driver for growth for us. We're releasing a lot of new features over the next couple of months that we think will make Glass's value proposition a lot better in a way that someone will be like, oh, that's a no-brainer, here's $30. We're excited for that. And then I'm doing just so much more marketing now that I'm in stateside, right? So like a lot of the work I've been doing over the last years has been internal marketing structure and product stuff. And now that I'm physically on the East Coast and able to start holding meetups and things that are a lot safer outdoors, we are becoming more of an outward-facing marketing company, such as having a podcast. That's why you're here. So
Yep.
we're gonna start seeing dividends for those seeds that we're planting now and have over the last 6 months. So check in a year. Now,
Nice.
for the fun one, I saved this for last because this is for me, and also, someone, Marcus has been looking at the photos on glass that I have been posting from the GFX 100S medium format camera. And
Okay.
he is trying to decide if he should sell his Sony A7 IV or 5 or one of them, some
Okay.
Sony A whatever.
Sony doesn't make any medium format, so it's definitely
Yeah, it would be
format company.
selling his entire kit to upgrade to the medium format Fujifilm.
Whoa.
To which I say absolutely or no. It's up to you, man. I don't know.
super helpful.
I know, right? So like
Okay.
I'm kind of stuck too, right? So I've had this camera for 2 weeks now. I assume I'm going to have it for like another week or two before you will swoop back in and be like, hey, maybe give that back to me. And I'm madly in love, right? Like this is the most I've shot in a long time. This is the way that I like to shoot, right? Like there are certain things about digital that make it really hard for me to get in a meditative mind state when I am walking around and taking photos and trying to be in that moment. It's a lot easier for me to access that with this medium format camera than
So I have
my
a question.
regular one.
Yeah. And I'm curious, this is from Marcus, this question?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious if Marcus has also asked about the lens that you're using and how you also yourself feel about the lens, because I think it's the marriage of this old manual focus, beautiful lens that was made for 35 millimeter full frame cameras that happens to cover the entire sensor of the medium format, so you don't have to deal with cropping or really too extreme of a vignette. And is it that combination of the modern digital camera with focus peaking, and you can like zoom in if you want and all these things with that really old lens? Because if that's the case, you might be unhappy with the same body and a Fuji lens that does autofocus or what have you. It certainly won't have the same look. So I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are two ways that I've been thinking about that. One is I should probably come and borrow the lens that has autofocus.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
the
don't.
85 1.8, I think. So it's like
Yeah.
a 50-ish millimeter equivalent.
Yeah, that sounds
Somewhere
great.
around Not sure where it is.
It's somewhere in your pile of lenses and lights. So part of this is that like I think that the manual focus is like hitting it really well, right? Like I think that feeling and that slow, but it's also not a fast camera, right? Like because it's medium format, I have very nice SD cards in there, but it doesn't matter. You take 6 photos and your buffer's full, right?
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah,
do a hold down this button and then I will pick out the photo in post like you can with every DSLR ever, like you can with your sports camera that you use for wedding, or even my like Leica. Even the Leica Q2 will shoot fast enough if you tell it to, that you don't have to focus on like waiting for the exact moment to hit the thing right. And then if you get it wrong, the moment's gone.
That one's really pretty. For the podcast listeners, I'm as Daniel's talking about this, I'm scrolling through his glass feed to see some of the images he's been making with the.
It's like it is a very fun camera. It slowed me down, and so there is this this fear that I'm in love with the look, right? I'm in love with the lens, and when I buy my own, I won't have this lens, therefore I won't actually love it as much. And so I also need to try something that I haven't done, and I don't know why I've never done this, but I need to just turn off autofocus on my Leica and take a photo walk and see if manual focus is the thing that I'm missing, if it's the files, because the files that come out of the medium format versus my full frame Leica or my full frame Nikon or my cropped X100 TVU, whatever letter they're on now, are all very different, right? Like and like you can put a lot of camera profile and or preset on a photo in Lightroom, and you can do a lot with a modern RAW file now. But there is something to be said for the depth and the amount of pixels that you're getting with 100 megapixels that is just...
It is something to do with that, I think. But it's also, I'd be very curious now because the Hasselblad camera, which you also seem to enjoy, you haven't had the experience of shooting that with the 58 1.2 lens. And that is my personal favorite photo experience, even more so than the Fuji.
So you left when I was visiting Baltimore in January. Sam lent me his Hasselblad with a adapted tilt shift lens on it, which was very fun, but also very heavy. And I was terrified of taking it outside of his apartment. It's a
big rig. That's true. I just didn't have time or something to grab it.
It's fine. I did not have a lot of energy. I was looking at houses and deciding if we were going to move here or not having time to take photo walks. But that meant that I didn't get experience.
That's the rig I've been using to train, to have source photos, to train stable diffusion to create. Anyway, it's a very unique combo. But it is unruly. So I sorry to interrupt, but I didn't know if you knew why I had that very unique pairing of a 24 millimeter tilt shift with a medium format camera that's very susceptible to rolling shutter effects.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like information here. So I'm trying to figure out which part of this that I'm actually enjoying, right? Like, is it having the added latitude of these extreme file sizes? Is it the fact that it's a little bit heavier or a little bit harder to shoot with? Is it the manual focus? Is it a combination of all of the above, right? Is it also that I moved and I finally have energy again, right? Like the first thing, I've been recovering from moving and getting settled in our house and, changing countries and getting our dogs their vet appointments and whatever. So like the first time that I had energy, the day I woke up and was like, I feel good enough to do something, is when I came to say hello to you in person, and you lent me this camera, right? So like that would have ideally been the first day that I had energy to shoot anywhere, right? Like my shooting was at an all-time low for the last month until about 2 weeks ago when I had energy, right? Or when I recovered from a traumatic long move. And so now it's like, would I feel this much joy if I had just been shooting with my Leica this whole time? Probably, right? Like I know that I would still feel good because I'm making and creating and feeling great about it. Speaking of, shout out to last week, we went with the newspaper club. We
nice.
Went with the newspaper club.
Good. I'm so glad.
And my zine is in progress. Newspaper print coming soon to a web store near you. And so like I'm making this nice zine with all the images that I've made with the GFX, and which part of this is contributing to my mood and which part of this is because of the actual equipment. And it's hard for me to care, right? Like
that's a good point.
At some point, I can keep like rationalizing and trying to figure out which is which, but instead, I think I'd rather just kind of ride this wave of feeling great and like making, and kind of go with the flow in that area, and then figure it out after when I'm not still in it. But like this morning was the first morning I didn't take a walk to go out and shoot photos, in the first time in 2 weeks that I haven't shot with the camera yet, right? Chances are I'm going to do it this afternoon, right? And that's great. So I don't want to...
It's interesting. It's always been a fun sort of mind fuck to think about because I've gone through this since learning music. You get a new guitar and you're like, oh my God, this is so fun. Guitar's amazing. This is great. And then after some time, maybe that wears off. So you get another guitar. And this is why people in their 60s have rooms full of guitars. Because sometimes that can be the case. We've talked about this. I don't know if they were some of the pre-released recordings or not, but you acquire something new and it does have usually the effect of motivating you for a little while because you've just spent all this money. It's a new fun thing for your brain, blah, blah, blah. It's why I've had to be very careful over the years of making sure if I review a lens or a camera body, I give a ton of time between when I bought the thing and when I'm writing the review. This is inherently an issue with any reviewer that, they are compelled to get something out right away, to be the first person to review this thing, because you're generally going to get a traffic spike that way. But then it's impossible to have a faithful sense of really, is this worth buying for you or me? Is this actually better than what I had before? Is it just the newer thing? It's a tough conversation to have honestly with yourself, just because you have an implicit bias that's going to be skewed no matter what. And that's why I loved where you took it with your final thought. It's like, does it matter? Do I need to have this answer? No. I think that's the right answer. Is just who cares? But I would be curious to see how you like the Hasselblad, which is even a slower, more restrictive camera. And if you like that even more, or if the Fuji becomes your favorite. Because the Hasselblad doesn't have any shutter curtain, no mechanical shutter at all. The rolling shutter is very intense, so you have to only photograph still subjects and be still yourself with your camera movements. Otherwise, you get this little jelly wiggle. Because it's tough, and specifically with the Fuji, I know just last week a photographer who's trying to get into luxury weddings and so wants to have a more expensive camera, which I don't think is actually necessary to do luxury weddings, but whatever. He bought an entire Fuji rig and is unhappy with it because with the autofocus, it's so slow that it just, you almost can't even use it for weddings.
Oh yeah, I absolutely would not shoot an event that has moments that you can't miss. Right, like I would shoot a happy hour or something, but I have slipped focus so many times with how shallow the focus plane is on this thing that it doesn't. No way I would shoot a kiss, even like wide open at like f/16. I would still be like, no, I'm gonna miss it. Right, like
I would totally shoot a kiss. I would be perfectly comfortable with that. But it's very exciting to see that you've enjoyed it so much. I loved looking through your feed just now and seeing, especially, it seems like you have a tendency to want to shoot a little more stop down. I don't know what settings, because it's not coded in the lens to talk to the camera. So it all just says f1.0, but I assume you're doing a nice mix of aperture. I don't know.
It's usually between 1.2 and like 2.8. Those are my two that like I really care about. But then when I'm shooting a scene that I know I'm in danger of slipping the focus on, and it's a slow thing, or like the light is playing off a car really well, that sort of thing, I will do a twist it to f8, 5.6, 2.8, and 1.2, and then shoot all of them and then pick my favorite in post. But almost always I'm picking whatever's the most open, because I don't know.
It is worth noting for anybody else listening, the Hasselblad 907X50C camera body is the same sensor as the Fuji GFX 100S. I think they're both Sony sensors, but each company has their own, I assume, interpretation of the color information and all that. So they both edit beautifully, but in like slightly different ways. And I'm still on the fence as to which one I like more. I think I still like the Hasselblad colors more, to be honest. But
that's really exciting news for me in my opportunity of holding on to the Fujifilm a little bit longer.
Oh yes, that's true.
You won't miss it as much. So when I accidentally slip into, Daniel's had that camera for a month, who can say?
More than that camera, I miss the lens. That is what I would be most likely to get back from you, is that I've been debating for years about buying a second copy of that lens, just because they're becoming so insanely rare, especially ones that are in decent condition. But I just can't bring myself to. They're up to like $4,000 now, $4,500 maybe.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, that lens is very expensive.
I had no idea. I thought this was like a nifty 50, like $100 bullshit lens.
No.
Oh God! Of course it's nice. You always find ways to surprise me, Sam. Marcus, to answer your question, I don't know. Go with what you feel. Like, are you finding yourself having trouble to shoot? This doesn't even count because Marcus is on his second consecutive 365 project.
Wow.
He like started it when he joined class and has been shooting, every day, and he's on day like 450 now or something like that, 465, 75, somewhere in there. And it's beautiful. Marcus, while we're talking directly to you, I was deeply worried about what I would do as me, the community manager of Glass, when you stop posting every day, because I enjoy it so much. It's such a nice little, hey, because a lot of people like Marcus, they talk to Marcus. He takes really incredible photos of Sweden, nice long exposures, gorgeous landscape work in weird urban areas, desolate things. It would translate very well to medium format. Do you need to, Marcus? I don't know, man. But I'm just glad glad you're shooting. I feel like I ummed less. Did I less?
I never know until I do it too. It's something I have to specifically practice, just taking a breath instead of the and once you are really in a thought, it's very tough to hear yourself talking as you're talking and keep like the next thing ready in your brain conversationally. It's tough. I'm going to do one quick last scan at some of these questions, just make sure there's not any like good rapid fire easy thing to do. Oh, here's one. Imagine you move to a place where nobody knows you. How would you start promoting your business? No, okay, we're not going to end on that. That's going to take another hour.
I can do that super fast.
Do it.
If you are shooting senior portraits, you go to a high school, you volunteer to shoot their team photos for free. So you go up and you shoot their softball team, their football team, their whatever sports teams they have. You shoot them all. You do it in like conga style line of everyone show up. Is sports photo day. You do that for free. You design their posters for free, and then you give them their posters. They print them. It has your name on the bottom, and every single person also gets returned their photo of them looking all badass in their like tennis uniform or band uniform, and then you will randomly get dozens and dozens of bookings that year from the seniors and juniors that are graduating or moving up a year. So that was how you would do it if you were shooting if you did senior portraits, if you did family portraits. It's that same style of thing, right? Like show up to family events, have a photo booth at a family event, or like a kite festival or some sort of family festival, have a free photo booth. People will get their quick portraits taken, and then they will use that information to find you when it's time for them to book again. Wedding photography is a little harder because you have to shoot weddings and you have to market weddings. Sam's idea of commenting on leaving Google reviews on the venues is a really good idea, but that only works if you have shot there before and
I've been trying to
photos.
Think about a way to like ethically and logically leave a review for a place of like where you maybe want to shoot someday.
You could like shoot nice architecture photos of the place, be like, this is a really wonderful event venue without people in them, and just do detail shots and then
I think
link that way.
Mentioning within the review itself, like I came to this place, blah blah blah. I really love it. I'm also a wedding photographer, so I'm dying to shoot a wedding here, or something like that. Just make it known.
Can't wait to shoot a wedding here. Yeah, is a really good one.
Maybe some establishing shots of like the architecture, and then a couple of wedding photos that are just random. Because I think if people read the description, that'll click in their mind of what you're doing here. You're not trying to fake it, but it's genuine, and that is probably the best approach. But you still need to have some photos to start with to do that. So
other than that, there would be Google. If you need to still building your portfolio and or trying to build up a network of people within there, find a photo meetup and or hold your own photo meetup. Google search, Baltimore wedding photographers, cold email every single person that shows up in the first 100 results. Say, hi, I'm new to town. If you ever need a second shooter, I'd love to work with you. Here's my work. Love to meet up for coffee, pick your brain about the local area. There's enough, like rising tide raises all ships. There's enough weddings to go around, etc. It's not a competition, that sort of thing. Try and get a few friends in the industry that are local to you. That's it. It's easy.
Big thing
solved
with
it.
approaching as a second shooter, I tell people, I don't know how well this works, but I've seen it work for myself, is typically if you're emailing someone who's established, they already have a nice list of their regular go-to second shooters. So without being weird or too intense or annoying, I think it's important to do check-in regularly. So you're sort of popping up on the radar, because there will come one day, one wedding weekend, where either it's a last minute booking or their go-to list of second shooters, just nobody's available. And as long as you have kind of consistently punched through the noise of like, hey, I'm here, I'd like to second shoot with you, you're way more likely to be remembered and reached out to in that pinch of a moment. Also, engaging through Instagram or Glass or something with that photographer's content, just like random comments here or there, can really be helpful in terms of just making yourself known, because you will likely not hear back from anybody who's already established, and you're just like, hey, I want a second shoot for you. That's, yeah. Also, with the let's go get coffee, pick your brain type of thing, anybody who's particularly established would probably normally charge for that. In fact, that's generally my favorite times of actually meeting somebody out in the world, is when we talk about photography, but it's not like a brain drain. Because I've done like coffee meetups and stuff in my early years where I'm just suddenly realizing, oh, this is like a brain drain of just hanging out.
Yeah.
And that's not
I
super
thought I
fun
was
for
making
me.
a friend, and suddenly they know
Yeah.
everything about me and how I work.
So you want to be mindful of that. Maybe explicitly say, like, we can talk photography, but I'm just like trying to make friends, something like that, just so that there's no risk of that occurring. Because more than welcome to talk about photography, but if you're literally asking me, business questions, which has happened before, gets a little awkward, and that's why I don't say yes to those as often as I used to. But that's a great answer. I love what you said about the portrait stuff. That makes wonderful sense. I've also seen a lot of people have real success marketing mini sessions. So keeping it, especially for families, real quick, have really clearly defined time slots that people can sign up for. And everybody comes to you in one spot, a park or wherever you can feel comfortable and have free access to, and then just cycle through like 15-20 minute little family sessions, something like a portrait session. That's also way easier for families to say yes to. 15 or 20 minutes, they could probably do that with a couple kids. A lot of times a big old family session that's an hour or two long can be like, ooh, we really have to carve this out for our schedule. So minis are actually a really powerful tool, and it's easy for you because you can hopefully just sit there for like 4 hours and rake in.
Yeah, minis are also a great purchase for advertising, like doing meta advertising. Throw $50 or $100 on Instagram ads or Facebook ads and keep it like very tight to a couple of zip codes and a couple of age groups and has kids, and like if you're doing families or weddings or whatever, like keep it as tight as you can. And then for headshots, industry events. So go to, volunteer at something that is adjacent to people needing headshots, or like setting up a booth at somewhere that would need updated headshots, but isn't something that you're thinking about, like an HVAC convention or, refrigerators monthly meetup or whatever, right? Like it doesn't matter. The people still need headshots just because you're not, just because you don't think it's a very specific normal photography thing. That's a really great way to build up a client list quickly, because then everybody needs photos, man. Everybody needs photos. What a world.
Eventually. Okay, that was good. That was a good run. We're over. I need to edit this like now, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you, Sam.
Appreciate you. Bye.
1,